Hello and welcome to Profiles and Issues, the cable television talk show that gives you in-depth interviews with prominent personalities from the world of the arts, culture, and politics. I'm your host, Dennis Rudin. Our topic for this broadcast, the Jazz Leadership Project. How can it enrich the lives of individuals on a daily basis and in the workplace? Our profiles for this program are Greg and Jewel Kinch Thomas, the founders and facilitators of the Jazz Leadership Project. Jazz music is referred to by many historians as a culmination of American culture and diverse musical styles. From its origins in the United States in New Orleans and throughout its many permutations, jazz has continued to evolve and remain a trademark of the American culture. To quote the great Wynton Marsalis, jazz music is America's past and its potential summed up and sanctified and accessible to anybody who learns to listen, to feel, and understand it. The music can connect us to our earlier and our better selves. It can remind us of where we fit on the timeline of human achievement and ultimate value of art. End of quote. Jewel Kinch Thomas is COO and co-founder of the Jazz Leadership Project, a former artistic and executive director of the historic theater of the Riverside Church. Ms. Thomas founded and produced programs including dance, film, family arts festivals featuring luminaries such as Felicia Rashad, Max Roach, and Ruby Dee, the executive director of the Hudson Valley Writers Center. She was also a participant in the New York Foundation for the Arts Leadership Circles and Columbia University Art Leadership Institute. Greg Thomas, CEO and co-founder of the Jazz Leadership Project, has developed programs such as the National Jazz Museum and Harlem's flagship review series, Harlem Speaks. He has written about culture, race, democratic life, and values in publications such as The Village Voice, The New Republic, Salon Uptown, The Root, Guardian Observer, and the New York Daily News. Mr. Thomas has also lectured on American cultural history and jazz at Columbia, Jazz at Lincoln Center, and Hamilton and Harvard College. We are proud and honored to welcome Greg and Jewel Thomas to Profiles and Issues. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much,
Dennis. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you, and we're happy that our paths crossed. And they crossed where? At the Business Council?
Yes. Business Council of Westchester.
Right. I think that was a networking event.
And it brings good people together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Obviously, yes.
I tend to be partial about that. Okay, how did the idea for the Jazz Leadership Project happen?
We've been in the arts and culture field for several decades now, between the two of us. And Jazz Lincoln Center called us in to help manage a leadership program that they had. After some time, they had to shelve the program for internal reasons. And since we had done such great work and we were so passionate about, the power of this work to help individuals, we decided to create the Jazz Leadership Project and continue moving forward.
My introduction to jazz, and to many people I know, is first through, the hearing, the sound, the excitement of it, of actually seeing it performed. So what I ask you is, how can it help individuals in their daily lives and the workplace, as you have you put together a program?
Yeah.
Well, there are certain principles and practices that make jazz special. And these principles and practices are actually transferable to one's life and the workplace. So, for example, music is an auditory medium. So you've got to develop strong listening skills. Well, in your relationships, whether it's personal or professional, strong listening skills are really important, and that's one of the principles and practices that we deal with. There's another, and we'll talk about some of these in more detail. How do you deal with challenge? How do you deal with the unexpected? And then how do you, in the moment, improvise using all of your skills and bring that to bear in the moment? Jazz has all of that.
Now, I noticed one of the things that you do in your course is you demonstrate your ideas, the concepts, through a jazz ensemble. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Each and every presentation and workshop that we do, we have a trio that works with us.
Well, we have we have many clips, but we have a small little clip that we'd like to introduce the audience to with the Jazz Ensemble. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're back now. Okay, so let's talk about the power of music, of jazz.
Okay.
The power of music is universal. I mean, I think if you speak to anyone on this globe, they can tell you about moments in their life where music has played a really significant part. It stirs up certain memories for them. It evokes particular feelings. Our music is something that is consistent throughout our lives in terms of what we play in certain special occasions, or depending on what type of mood we want to evoke. It's a very powerful medium that we all take pleasure in.
And jazz in particular, jazz music is powerful because it represents freedom, freedom in form. It was grounded here in America. It was created by Black Americans who ironically created an art form that's based on freedom when they weren't free. And that's one of the reasons why it's America's fine art, because through improvisation and through self-expression, you have that type of freedom that America represents and is supposed to represent.
But it has also been embraced by many Americans, not just African Americans. One person comes to my mind as example, Stan Getz.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Numerous artists that have embraced it and added to it also.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing about art. It may have come from a particular place or community, but that community and that place, they don't have ownership over it. Arts are a gift to the world, so jazz is really a gift to America and a gift of America to the world. Absolutely.
And it's really about the power of personal expression and creativity. And when people can connect with an artistic field like this, it gives them the ability then to share what they feel, what they want to voice to the world.
So if I may summarize a little bit, you're talking about emotions, feelings, memory, language,
yes,
culture, and there's, as Greg said, the shared respect and trust, creativity, innovation. Can you give me some examples of innovation, like with jazz playing example?
Oh wow, there's so many. Historically, you have different styles of jazz that occur. So the transition, one famous one is from the swing era with the big band to bebop. So it went from big bands to more smaller group playing, and the style shifted so that people like Charlie Parker and Dizzy Gillespie and Bud Powell, Max Roach, they played a style that was grounded in the same music, but that had certain qualities. They played faster sometimes, they played slower, they were more harmonic development, you know, and the virtuosity level went up even higher. So when you're talking about Charlie Parker, one of the masters of bebop, he's a prototypical example of innovation.
Right.
And really, as a basis for the music, these musicians are innovating constantly when they're on the bandstand. And that's part of the improvisation.
Right.
That as they are getting information and communicating with each other, they are innovating each and every time they take a solo. So it brings a nuance to the music and to that particular performance each and every time.
Okay, on our third edit, the jazz feeling, have a little edit there which gives us a feeling of the jazz rhythm itself.
Transition to a jazz beat. So, Larry Johnson on drums is riding the cymbal. Jim Hankins on bass is walking. And Rudy Wangozi on piano is comping or accompanying. He's playing the melody. So what we're going to do, we want you to either snap your fingers or clap your hands. Okay? Okay. So those of you who want to snap your fingers, come on. You got to either snap your fingers or clap your hands. So you can get into the feeling of jazz.
Okay.
All right.
Now that was hot. That got me all excited. I don't know if I can continue with the broadcast.
We had a great time.
I definitely want to run out and get my sax.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Any comments about that segment, or should we move on?
Well, that was a piece from a presentation we did in Chicago for the Human Capital Institute. And it was an opportunity for us to share exactly what the project is all about, and to give the people who are from across the country a little taste of what the jazz music is about and what the principles and the practices really could give to them.
So you start with the feeling. You start with the very rhythm of jazz, which is that swing rhythm.
All right, the jazz principles.
Yes.
Want to get into that, please?
Okay.
Sure. Well, for the Jazz Leadership Project, we have 4 primary principles, starting with individual excellence. I mean, it always starts with the individual person. We go next to antagonistic cooperation, which is the way we deal with challenges. We also have shared leadership, which is the way we work together with others who are also, in their own way, leaders. And we also have ensemble mindset, which is a way that you work together as a group so that that synergy becomes more than the sum of its parts, where you really deal with it as a whole based on the high values and principles of a group or an organization.
So we like to say that these principles are the bedrock of the music, and it is through them that the musicians are able to achieve high performance, and they are able to further develop their leadership, and they're able to develop a tight cohesion in terms of what they're bringing to their audience.
Now we have a clip on antagonistic cooperation.
Yes.
Should we get into that right now?
Sure.
Yes, please.
Oh, that is hot.
Isn't that incredible? Two of the most highly acclaimed musicians in the world on trumpet, and that was a perfect example of antagonistic cooperation in terms of the challenge that they were going back and forth with each other.
Mm-hmm. That was terrific.
Yeah.
Time is moving, but Craig, maybe in 30 seconds, you could tell us what they were doing, how they were challenging each other.
That's called trading fours. So one would play a phrase, the other would play a phrase, and it's like a healthy competition. And they both become winners, and the audience does also. So instead of looking at challenges as negatives, you look at challenge as something to grow and learn from. That's antagonistic cooperation, actually from the hero's journey tradition.
All right, that was terrific. All right, our next topic, improvisation. Edit 6, please. We have a diagram, and as our audience sees the diagram, we'd like you to speak about the elements of improvisation.
Well, yeah, from our standpoint, improvisation is not about winging it. It's not about, something that you just throw together. It is something that comes from a place of preparation, of deep, work and groundedness in your skill set. So that's why your audience now sees those three phrases on the screen of adaptability, agility, and innovation, because that is the pathway to which improvisation takes musicians and people who are in situations, workplace, that can benefit from it.
Okay, any other concepts that you want to discuss that's connected about that? Syncope, big ears, is that have anything to do with it?
Well, we mentioned the 4 principles, and there are 6 practices. The first 3 practices have to do with the individual. The next 3 have to do with working in groups. So very quickly, the very first principle would be what we call in the shed, which is your skill sets, getting your skill sets together. Then we have your sound. It's important to develop your own identity in whatever you're doing, whether it's on stage with music or in the workplace. And then we have big ears, which is a jazz phrase for deep listening. And deep listening starts with you being just present as you're engaging with people, to feeling what they're saying, empathetic listening, to what we call generative listening, which is actually being a co-creator in a situation with someone. The next 3 are dealing with groups. Improvisation, which we've discussed. Syncopation, which is in music, being able to play with the offbeats, the unexpected, and it's true in life too. And then finally there's swinging, which we mentioned was the basic rhythm of jazz, which is like being resilient in situation.
Being in flow.
And being in flow.
But I think a lot of people have heard that phrase in terms
in
of
the zone.
In the zone, in the space.
Now, maybe I may be zeroing in on this correctly or not, but improvisation, you transfer that to the workplace. You're having a meeting with your marketing department on how to sell a product. You started off the marketing campaign, but the sales didn't go the way you wanted it to. So would improvisation be you would have to restructure your campaign? You would have to reevaluate it and change it?
That's a good example. That's a very good example. I mean, because because in a situation like that, if you see something is not going right, because it is also a problem-solving approach. So as Jules said, it's not about winging it. It's really about bringing all your resources to bear in a situation. So you have a meeting and you're going over, well, what can we do to correct this, because this is not going right. And when you go into that process of brainstorming, you let those ideas flow, and that idea flow is improvisation. So that's an example of that.
Right.
Then, of course, you've got to decide what you're going to do.
Thinking on your feet.
On your feet, exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Okay. Now, the final, I believe, is the overview summary. Tell us about the workshop.
We conduct workshops that are either half day or full day. And the workshops, as I think we mentioned earlier, we come with a trio. So there's a jazz trio that's with us, which the jazz trio demonstrates some of the principles and practices that we share. We go through the principles and practices during that time period with exercises, with written reflections. We have a workbook that has some substantial information regarding these practices and principles. We also do small group exercises, so we're able to break the participants out into small groups so that they can dive a little deeper into the concepts and begin to understand how they can use them and what resources they can bring to bear in order to be more successful at what they do. And we co-facilitate the workshops. I think I touched on everything. I'm not sure.
I think you did. I would also say that we have an introductory version, about an hour and a half. We have a half-day version, about 3.5 to 4 hours, and then a full day, which would be 6 to 7 hours. In the full day, you have all the principles, all the practices, and also an assessment that folks take before the workshop to look at their work styles. And then we look at the work styles and relate it to the music.
Okay, have we missed anything?
It's a lot of fun.
Yes.
It's interactive and it's experiential. So it's really a whole brain model. So you're using left brain and right brain. You're looking at skills and technical know-how, but you're also looking at creativity and improvisation and swinging. And we
putting
also
your heart and your feeling in
have-
a situation.
Yes. Yeah.
Terrific. Look, I'm challenging my crew. I have a terrific edit. It is 4 minutes, but maybe you can cut it down to 2 minutes before we have to sign off, because I love that. It's called Edit 7.
Okay.
Thank you both, Craig and Jewel, for coming on the program. The time goes too fast. And all of our programs can be seen on our website, which is free on demand at any time at www.thedennisrudenshow.com. You can email your comments to me at profile.issue@yahoo.com. Greg and Jewel Kinch Thomas can be contacted about the Jazz Leadership Program at gj@jazzleadershipproject.com. This should appear on your screen as I've mentioned. This is Dennis Rudin saying so long for Profiles and Issues.